Dad said, son, when he was leaving home, and the last words he said to me was, son, you don't understand that, but one day you will. It came back to me. And the whole thing is that's life. For you, for a woman, and for a man. You agree with it? I don't know if you agree with it. What do you think? Tell me. What I was just saying. I mean, my whole point of it is that we can be so wrapped up into us that we forget the other person that you were in love with. And you just want to get your way. You can't, that doesn't, you're damaging yourself.
Or you could be so busy pointing the finger at them for what's going on in your marriage, everything wrong.
Without seeing anything.
Until you're overlooking your faults and what you're contributing to that negativity. That's
all I'm saying about marriage. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, that's one good thing my wife always says.
Who's your wife? Oh, because I don't know her. You are? Go ahead.
She says, when a lot of her friends, when they have breakups or whatever, they want to get back into a relationship. And she tells them that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Take some time to look at yourself.
Exactly.
And you don't have to just jump back into a relationship.
That's right. And you know what? I'm proud of her. That's a good thing to tell your friends. Stay single for a while and know who you are. Look at your own faults. Because nobody's perfect. We all have flaws. Nobody's perfect. But if you never look at your own self, then, or how people really, how would you like living with yourself? Where are there some areas you say, I wouldn't like that if, I do this, I wouldn't like that if I was, had to live with me. Would you like it? You wouldn't like that, right? Yeah. You guys can you'll have great marriages. If you can see that. All right. So, and I'm saying all this because we're going into something like this. Okay? We're going to go into something like this. So, okay, so what were we talking about? We were talking about we're leaving unpaid. We started off with, what did we start off with? He made me forget faith. We started off with faith, and I always say this quality of faith that we start off with. Okay? Then we went to what, Josie? Offenses?
Yes, faith, offenses, and then forgiveness.
And then now we're on forgiveness. And that's going to go on a little bit. Okay? Now, these were special instructions for the disciples, but it came to like an end. Okay? And we're moving on to, we're going to stay with the theme of forgiveness, but Jesus is now going to deal with this forgiveness in a broader audience. Okay? And so it involves, and it's going to get into a discourse with the Pharisees concerning forgiveness and what? Anybody? What? What I've been talking about?
Marriage.
Forgiveness in marriage. That's why I took you there. It's always a method to my marriage, right? You okay? I just don't start talking about anything. I'm talking about it for a reason. Because there's no better way to demonstrate forgiveness but in a marriage. Would you agree with that, Sam?
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't forgive in a marriage to your closest partner, then you have some issues. You can't turn around and say, I forgive my sister, I forgive my brother, I forgive my cousin, I don't forgive my husband. What? And there's a reason why I'm saying that. There's a reason I'm building. Well, I shouldn't even have to say this. You should know that I'm always building to a point, and it has to deal with the scriptures that we're dealing with right now. How can you say that? That's my brother. That's my blood. But when it comes down to my husband, no. There's a difference between your mother, brother, sister, cousin, Rufus, and Billy Joe. There's a difference when it comes down to your husband, and Jesus is gonna, or wife, and Jesus is gonna make it clear.
There's a lot of family members that don't believe in that though. A lot of your fifth cousin that you're not even sure if that is your cousin. As always, I've known before. They don't say
Right.
it, but
Oh, they will say that. They mean it.
they come for you, or she's not blood, or he's not blood.
Yeah. She's wearing a ring and he's wearing a ring, and you guys have been joined together. But somebody in your family gonna come on and say, "Look, I'm your brother. Look, I'm your sister." He ain't got no. Whoa! Wait a minute. You just hit a stone wall. In the eyes of God.
So I think that comes along with the family, the upbringing and
Yes.
what each family, because some families are like, that's my husband, I don't care what he does, and you're just my sister, my brother, I'm clinging to my husband.
Exactly. So we're going to take a look at that. Okay? Because I'm not going to just tell you something. I want you to see how the word is. So Jesus was growing in popularity. And he had a lot of women followers. And the Pharisees noticed this. Not only women, not only men, but now you're going to see them trying to split that. They're going to try to disrupt that. And there's some laws that were made by man, not by God, that they are, especially these two rabbis. And I heard these names over and over again, and I heard them. I can't pronounce their names. And so I'm not even going to try because I'm going to make a mistake. But one was very liberal and one was very conservative. And we're going to talk about that. Okay? And I'm going to have to push it along because I really want to get through these 4 pages that I put together. Okay. So these Pharisees were taken back by Jesus' teaching and the large crowds that he had. But they had something in those days, in that culture, there was a serious issue with women. Control. It was evil. It was cold-hearted and ruthless. The way women, you thank God you weren't born in those days. Oh, it's like, I thank God I wasn't born in slavery. The last thing, I don't even know if I would have survived. And that maybe I would have because if I was born into it and had to deal with it. But if I was taken and then forced in, that's hard. That's hard to be beat and, and forced to even eat things that I had never even ate before and kicked around cold, brought to a place and now I'm cold, snow, and never even seen snow before. You understand what I'm saying? Just ruthless, chains around your neck. I'm not into that kind of stuff. I thank God that, you be thankful. You just be thankful. And slavery was all through life. Not this life, but the world exists. The reason why women cleave to men, really, because men defended. Men were warriors. And don't ever think women didn't fight. And women can fight just as good as men can if she have to. You understand? In those days, but they cling to the man as warriors, going out protecting them. So that kind of stuff always existed because nobody wanted to be a slave. Nobody. It's not everybody. Nobody raised their hand and say, "I'll be a slave." Over here, me. We're not into stuff like that. So first, they decided that they were going to trap Jesus. So this is a trap. They're not asking a question because they want to know something. Have you seen people in this church at certain times? Not people, you've seen people that maybe don't come that much, but they have a pre-understanding of something, and the way they set their question up is a trap. It's easy. It's easy to identify that, because God will allow you to recognize the fact that somebody's trying to trick you with something, and this is what Jesus is doing. He identified the fact that it's a trap. Let's go on a little further. So remember, they're not looking for clarification on this matter, but a way to cause division. So they want to split people's opinion. What they really want to do is drive a wedge between men and women. Too many women are following Jesus. Let's get them women out of it. And if he sides with the women, then it's going to make the man angry. Why? Because men are in a good spot right now, and we don't want to rattle the man, right? Does that make sense to you? You know, you say one thing leaning to one or the other side, you're going to cause a split. So you have to be very careful. And Jesus is right to the point. He always says, it has been said, but I say. It wasn't written. It's always, you have heard it said, but I say. That's what Jesus said. He goes straight to the word where, wow, what can you say now? Because he's clarifying strictly what the word says. All right, so once again, they wanted him to lose his support for women, for they knew that in this case, the wife had no say in her marriage. Okay? Today, women have a lot of say, if not most of the say, okay, in a marriage. Okay, so they were at the mercy of their husbands. And you're not into anything like that, and you don't have to be into anything like that, but that's how it was. On the other hand, as I said before, they didn't want to upset the male following neither. So it was a culture thing, man ruled. And when you rule, when you are in a good spot, you don't want to surrender that to nobody, would you? You want to, say for instance, you were a supervisor on a job, and they said, you got probably a little bit too much to do. We see you kind of tired. We're going to get another supervisor, and you guys are equal together. What are you going to say? No. I may be tired, but I don't want to share this with nobody. I want that. Am I right or am I wrong? You tell me.
Right.
You don't want to share that. When you got it made, I don't care how, you'll die in that position before you give it up. You don't want to share it. And that's what Jesus is dealing with. So the plan of the Pharisees was to force Jesus to take a stand on the interpretations of the rabbinical leadership on marriage, what they said. As I said, these two rabbis, one a Baka or something like that. I pronounced it wrong, I'm sure. They gave this interpretation of marriage, and we'll get to it in a minute. So remember, Jesus is continuing to teach you. You can't forget the context. Jesus is continuing to teach about what? Forgiveness. And he's entering the marriage zone. All right? Can I go a little lower than that? The marriage zone. Okay, so there's no better example to teach about forgiveness than in a marriage. Marriage is the ultimate battleground. Okay? You ain't never had arguments like you had outside, and you may have fought with people in high school. Girl, don't you touch me. Get your hand on me. That's my man. That's his whatever. You know high school, right? But marriage is where you really get down. You know, you can say things, cutting things, you can say this or that, and then all of a sudden you are going about your business in 10 minutes later. Right? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, do you believe that? See, only Sam is the one agreeing along with you, Victoria, like, I ain't saying nothing. Everybody else like, well, I never really been in. But you've been to something close like that.
If you lose, then you want to get vengeance. It ain't over.
Okay, and I'm showing you how that is going in the wrong direction.
You feel defeated.
Okay, I'm showing you how that's damaging. But that you are absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Okay, let's go a little further. Like I said, it's the battleground. So when you are angry and you upset, like what April just said, marriage for marriage people, they can come up with every reason for a divorce. You can just make up stuff. You don't know this guy. You don't know this woman. We'll come up with every, she's impossible. He's an abuser. Have you know? Just by the things he says. Anything. You come up with anything about marriage. Okay, but the main reason for a divorce is, as Moses said, and it was because it was a problem, because marriage was meant for one man, one woman, for life. That's the word. But Moses allowed it because of the hardness of their hearts. Is that a sin? Hard heart?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. That's why Moses allowed it. Okay, so in that day, it was the hardness of man crying out to Moses, saying, I can't take it. Go, Moses, go to God. And God said, I'll tell you what God did. But it's not God's original plan for marriage. His original plan is always good. And it's not that God backed away. It was because of God. He said, go ahead. But he gave them a reason to do something and how to do it. But they didn't like that neither. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. It was putting away your wives. We keep getting divorced and putting away, two separate things. I talked about it when we were preaching on Malachi, and I don't know if you remember that. Okay, putting away. People say God hates divorce. It wasn't divorce. It was God hates putting away. Okay, so write that on your notes, and we'll get to it in a minute. Okay. In other words, putting away was permitted, not commanded. They were permitted to put away their wives. It never was God's pattern for marriage. It never was his original idea. So the standard of marriage remains the same. Putting away is a sin, but it's a forgivable sin. Divorce is a sin, but it's permissible sin. So before we go forward, putting away and divorce, once again, are two separate things. Here's putting away. Putting away is, she burnt my toast, so I want her out of here. She burns my toast every morning. I want her out of here. I like my toast. I like my coffee just the way she never, ever does it the way I want her to do it, so I'm done with her. And I'm kicking her out of the house. Okay. But I still own her. Did you get that?
Yeah.
She's under my authority. I still own her. And that's what it was. Marriage was like an ownership. Now, what if I kick her out, where are you going to go? You can go nowhere. You become a beggar. Now you have to beg. And what if a man turns around and says, okay, how about a little oopsie doopsie for food for the week? You hungry? What are you going to do? Okay, now you and him. What? Hey, this is real. We're adults.
Yes.
We're adults. And I'm just trying to talk proper, but we're adults. We understand. We know what we're talking about. Okay, you hungry? You need a place to lay your head, right? Okay, it's a little trade-off there. Women were given a means to be taken care of. Okay, it ain't pleasant, but you're not gonna die. As long as you're a woman, you ain't gonna die. Okay, ain't no reason no woman on face of earth. It's the end of the road. Okay, so look. Now she goes and she spends the night. Somebody says, your wife that you threw out, she's over there with such and such. Guess what? Now you and her are gonna be stoned because you committed adultery. You see why God hates putting away? You left that person with no choice but to do something wrong. You put a noose around the woman's neck and any other man that have anything to do with her. So when they saw you begging, and people just walked away from you. Nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to die. Does, you starting to see what putting away is versus see the King James Version got it right. It's not divorce, it's putting away. People always saying, oh God, divorce. Okay, all right. But what did God say? He said, I hate putting away. He says, if you put her away, this is where we got the mistake. Give her a bill of divorcement. Set her free so that she can go be somebody else. You see? We got that all mixed up. It never was. God doesn't like divorce, but he don't want divorce, period. But if you don't want this person because of the hardness of your heart, you don't send somebody outside after they had you some kids or whatever and tell them, I'm sick of you. Get out of my house. Okay. We got an understanding on that? Any questions on the difference between putting away and divorcing? Give her a bill of divorcement that she can hold in her hand and say, I'm free. Another man say, I'll take you. Okay. And so that's what he's saying. Yes.
Now, you're gonna get to the part like when I read ahead on this, is saying that if someone else marries somebody that's been divorced, they committed adultery.
No.
And say the only reason to give them divorce is for fornication.
No, we're not going to deal with that today. But there's something you got a little wrong there.
So the way it read, it was confusing.
It is confusing, but we'll straighten that out, right?
Okay.
But understand this: it is okay to marry some woman that has been free, released by her husband. You got to stay with the context. If you stray off context and then stop right there and then read something else and say, oh, but you can't. Stay with the context. Moses gave them, because the Pharisees thought the same thing, and they go back to Moses with, well, why did Moses? See, and we're going to get there. That's why it's so hard, Joyce, setting these things up. Because you know what people are going to ask you, and you have to put it in order and say, why does pastor take so long to make a point? Because you have pre-understandings. And I'm trying to make it as easy as possible. And not just because I like to talk. That's not true. All right. Because I don't say nothing all week long, because I've been sitting in the house by myself doing this stuff. Okay. All right. So Jesus, okay. Let's say Jesus, where was I? Okay, talked about divorcement, didn't I? So Jesus saw right through the Pharisees' hearts, what they're getting ready to set him up with. And so Jesus never took a stand on any of these rabbis' interpretations, because they come in with him with these other rabbis' views. And Jesus don't deal with no man's views on anything. So Jesus showed forgiveness is always, and always remember this, forgiveness is always a better way. Why? Because of the importance of marriage. Marriage is important. April, Josie, Joyce, marriage is important. It's like a sacred thing. And God is going to show us Jesus is going to show us how sacred it is. Okay? Which we don't look at that anymore. Okay? Okay? And one should never look for a way to get out of it. Once you get in it, if you say I do, you done dead. Okay? You got to understand it. Okay? So what is marriage and what does it do? Okay. There's once again, there's a difference between divorce, putting away, understanding the meaning of fornication, and eunuchs. But I don't have time today for all that, so we'll touch on that on Wednesday, okay? Now let's look at Matthew 19, 1 through 12. And as it came to pass, when Jesus was finished these sayings, he departed from Galilee and came to the coast of Judea beyond Jordan. And a great multitude followed him, and he healed them there. The Pharisees also came to him, tempting him. Remember that? Tempting him and saying to him, is it lawful for a man, and I think I put this in the King James Version, because I like the way the King James Version gives you a better understanding of this than, because you can get confused in the NIV or the American Standard. Because I looked at all of them and I said, and see, George, but you're better off in the King James Version on this. I like it better. Okay. All right. Okay. So verse 3, the Pharisees also came to him, tempting him and saying to him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? Pay attention to that. They are really stretching it. They try to trick you for every cause. Really? You see how it went from just this or that, and now you can put up. How do you feel getting involved in a marriage? And every time, whatever I'm putting you away, I'm throwing out for anything. It'd be like yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. I'd be like yes sir, because I'm just a piece of, I don't want to say meat, but I'm just a piece of flesh. That's all I am. Okay, let's go a little further. Okay. Is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? And he answered, Jesus answered, and said to them, have you not read that which who made them at the beginning, made them male and female? Let's pay close attention to this. He made them male and female. And he said, for this reason, for this cause, shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and the two shall remain, shall be of one flesh. Now, stop for a second. You say a man leaves his mother and father. Let's get a better understanding of this. She does too. Because women left to go be with their husbands. And actually the man built onto their houses. So actually the wife went over there and never saw her family again. But even though he's there, he's not to be around mommy and daddy saying whatever you say. He's to be the man of his own household and that extension and that on that land. Okay? So he's to leave his mother and father, not to be ruled, not to be, so they can pick on his wife. And she's already leaving. So they say a woman don't have to. No, yes, she does leave. It's not, you don't say it because she automatically leaves. Does that make sense? So both people leave their parents to go start their own life. I always tell Sam, I ain't got no business with your, have you told me all that? That's your wife. I ain't got nothing to do with that no more. It ain't, Dad, what do you think about that? That's your husband. I don't say nothing against him. It's him. He don't run my household, I don't run his household. And we have mutual respect for each other. You don't get me to turn around and say, you don't do this. No. I did all that before he took her hand. But once he took her hand, now you're on your own. You do whatever. I ain't got nothing to do with that. Okay. I'm trying to get you to understand something, that this is what the scripture says. Okay? You can't go running back to mommy. You can't go running back to daddy. You two are now one flesh in God's eyes. Okay? So, and he said, for this cause a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave to his wife. She has to cleave to him. This talking to the man. Take care of your wife. She's automatically have to. Okay? And the twain shall be one flesh. Wherefore, they are no more twain, but one flesh. See, I want you to see it. Don't stop seeing marriage through your own eyes. See marriage through God's eyes. You're one. Don't go ratting and telling. Just, okay? Because God ain't going to buy all that. Okay. What therefore God has joined together, together let no man put asunder. They said unto him, why? See, this bothered them. What the heck? Okay, so they said to him, why did Moses command to give a writing of divorcement and to put her away? They weren't writing a bill of divorcement. They were just putting her away. Okay. He said, Jesus said unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your heart, suffered you to put your wives away. But from the beginning, it was not so. Men are just full of sin. Verse 9. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committed adultery, and whoever marries her, is put away. Whoever marries her, which is put away, commit adultery. That was causing the problems. Okay? Unless you give her a bill of divorcement, which they weren't doing. They know exactly what he's talking about, and they are getting heated. Okay? They're getting heated. Because they're trying to divide the man and the woman. But he's not dividing anything here. Those women are saying, yeah, give me a bill of divorcement if you don't want me. Don't have me hanging out there. See, so the women are saying, yeah. And the women are saying, oh, yeah, we were instructed to give a bill of divorcement. So you see that? They don't know which way to go now. Okay? His disciples said to him, look, now it even bothered his own disciples. Okay? Look, let me tell you something. When you start dealing with the word of God, you won't bother everybody. Look what his disciples said to him, if this is the case, if the case of the man be so, which with his wife, it is not good to marry. Then you taking the control from us too. That's people.
You know what it is though? This is something that has become socially acceptable, and God's telling them, no, this is wrong.
Sam, you're making my point. You're too good. You're making my point. But this is it. You see this? All right. Okay. Let's go a little bit further. But he said to them, all man cannot receive the same. Jesus just knows how to get you on every way you turn. Look. In other words, he's saying some man can. What he's really saying is some man can handle this, and some man can't. If you are one of those that can't, and they're saying, no, I can't. I have feelings. So he's saying, well, then this is the rules. Here it is. But he said to them, not all men can receive the same, save they to whom it is given. For there are some eunuchs, and there are some born from their mother's womb, which were some born from their mother's womb. Paul was one of those people. He had no need or no desire to have a wife. And there are some eunuchs which are made eunuchs. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, Daniel, they were made eunuchs. They got right. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, that's what
Yeah. Go all the way back to Hezekiah's day when God said, because of what Hezekiah did, that in Hezekiah, he said, your sons are going to be made eunuchs. Hezekiah said, well, whatever God said, as long as it didn't happen to him.
Wow, that's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. But see, if you're going to be working around the king, and you're going to be working around all his wives and different things, you can look at him with a smile, but that's about all you can do. Okay? All right. So, and there are, and there are some that made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. I'd say most likely made themselves eunuchs. In other words, they said, I'm going to surrender this. I don't think the whacking, but surrendering the fact that I'm not going to have any relationship with any woman.
That's what a lot of the priests do, huh? The Catholic.
Yeah, they don't go through no procedure.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Yeah.
I know some things are going on behind, and you notice that in these organizations, religion, there's things that go on between nuns and priests because people still have feelings. And when those feelings, they can go out of control, and that's why Paul says, and I think it's Romans 7, 1 Corinthians 7, if you guys are burning, marry. It's better to marry than to burn. People say, we're sin. In hell. No, with that feeling, that feeling of I need to be relieved. And she's saying the same thing. Okay, it's better to go on and marry. Stop trying to say, I'm saving myself for God. Don't do that. Do what you feel you need to do. It's the right thing to do. Okay, so and he also says, and who is able to receive it, let them receive it. Now, Jesus left them no wiggle room. You never have a wiggle room with God. It is either, he always says no buts and no escapes. It's always straight out with God. We're the ones that turn around and say, but no, God said this is it. What are you going to do with that? Can you argue with anything Jesus just said? You can't. Okay, so they're starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable because they are not willing to make a change. And they're not willing to submit to God. Okay? And that's what happens. They heard about this in Matthew, let me turn this thing on. They heard about this in Matthew 31. Okay, Jesus turned around and said, pull up Matthew 31 real quick in your Bible and read it to me real quick. I think I got it. Well, I made a mistake.
Matthew
Matthew
31.
31.
The verse in 19.
31, you mean, there's no
19,
chapter.
Matthew 5:31, I'm sorry.
Oh, you say chapter 5?
Yes,
There's no verse 31.
Yes, right here.
you got it.
Oh.
I can't, I'm offline, I can't get on. Read it for me.
It says, it has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery. And anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery.
Okay, so they heard this earlier. This stayed in their minds. You see that? And now they're attacking back on this. They didn't want to hear that, what Jesus said. Okay, guys, give me about, can we take about 10 more minutes? It's up to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So, they were at the women were at the mercy of their husband. Husbands had the prerogative to say whatever they wanted to say, do whatever they wanted to do. And they weren't, and they thought they were going to be able to divide Jesus' following, but they could not. The way this is going, this looks bad, right, for them. So what happens when people get, when they're not getting their way? They get mad. Hey, 5 foot and 2 foot. Okay? All right, so let's look at what God said. Look at Deuteronomy 24, 1-3. It says, if a man marries a woman who becomes displeasing to him because he finds something indecent about her, she could have a mole on her back. Just a mole. He can always see that mole. One day he's tired of that mole. He wants a reason to put her out. He says, I don't like that. That's indecent to me. You never leave people with the reason to find something about you dislike. We can find something about anybody that we dislike. It says he can write her, look what it says. He can write her a certificate of divorce and give to her and send her from the house. And if she leaves her house, she becomes the wife of another man. I didn't finish that, but that's where you're at. Okay, but I didn't want to go any further than that right now. Because, like I said, look at time's sake.
So, what scripture is that?
Deuteronomy 24, 1-3. Okay, so Jesus did not give the interpretation of some of the religious leaders those rabbis, but he gave them God's true intention, which was not difficult to understand. So he sees something, and so if you see something strange or anything, and as time passed, they can interpret as time passed, the man was getting out of control. Your eyelashes just make me, this side is too long, that side too short. That's displeasing me. So what they were doing is kicking the woman out of the house. But some must have gave them a bill of divorcement, some didn't, but whatever it is, it's all about that bill of divorcement that they wouldn't give. So like I said, it became pretty petty. Now, look at this. Jesus brought them back to the beginning of what God said about marriage. God made, now this is where I wanted to get. God made male and female. Okay. He goes on to say, therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. And they shall, get this, They shall become one flesh. Okay? Please don't just blow that off. One flesh, God's eyes. It should be in the eyes of everybody else too. We'll stay out of other people's marriage. We would stay out of other people's marriage if we recognize that, but we don't. Okay. Adam was formed from the dirt. Okay, get this. Adam was formed from the dirt. He was made in God's image. He was male and female. In other words, he had everything. When I say, I'm not talking physically. He understood everything about a human being. Male and female ways how we look at things. God put him to sleep. Took a rib. He did not create another person from the dirt. He took a rib out of Adam and formed Eve. Took every female quality out of Adam and brought forth another human being with all the female qualities. Okay? Now, when they are joined together, spiritually and physically, or they act physically. See, because every time, whether you know or not, every time you lay down with somebody, you become one physically. But marriage brings you together in God's eyes is spiritually and physically together. Now, in God's eye, you are no more two. I don't see you as two. You're one. Nobody should be able to come between that. When we get on the phone, when we start talking about this, when you go to work and you say all these kind of things, you're only talking about yourself. When you turn around and you physically harm somebody, you're physically harming yourself. Does that make sense? You see, that's why you should always be working things out together in peace. Because you're destroying your own home. And when you destroy your home, you're destroying your children and everybody else. Jesus has already the Bible already gives us all the outlines on how things would go. And if you did it his way, you would see that it's perfect. But our culture says no. And we like our culture better. But I think we're in here to learn God's way because God's way is always better. Would you agree? I don't know. I mean, there's some things in the Bible I'm sure rubs you the wrong way. But that doesn't, I don't like milk. And I'm definitely not going to drink warm milk. But for some people, it's good. Puts them right to sleep. Me, it'd make me gag. But you know what? I wouldn't force it on someone else that I'm married to. I don't know if that's a good example, but I think you guys are getting the point. Okay. Okay. He brought them together and he sanctified it. Marriage is a commitment, a vow that you make to God. And you physically, in that act, physically, you in that process, you get married, you should experience the fact saying, wow, I'm one as God with this person as God. You shouldn't look at it as an act like, oh, I'm getting my kicks. But you can also look at it as a spiritual thing. Wow, this is mind-blowing. Because when you really think about sex without the spiritual, it's kind of odd. And we think, that's not odd. It is odd. If you step back and look at it, it's odd. Okay? You guys are looking at me like, you gotta be crazy. It's odd. It is odd. If you stop back and just take a step back and just look at it. But it's an act that God says is okay. Right?
Amen.
Yeah.
All right. That male and that female do not harm each other. You can say things they don't bring back to you. Or there's no insults, right? But you start running around, and guess what? You hear people say all kinds of things about you, which would never take place in a marriage, or should never take place in a marriage. Am I right or wrong? Okay, I'm just saying, like my mom used to say. All right, so male and female, men are to leave this is the last page, I'm gonna rush through it. Men leave their parents, join to their wife. As I said, women did already. And this was the pattern for future generations. Procreation, fill the earth. This is what it was. This is how God wanted us to be. Okay? So when we divorce, we divide or we put asunder. And that causes great damage. And I talked to you guys about this before. Jesus was saying, stop dividing. Marriage, the term used for marriage is like a glue. Take two by fours. You glue them together. Now those two boards are one. What happens when you separate those two things? You're gonna have now you got two by fours that you go sell them at Home Depot, right? Right? Why can't you sell them at Home Depot?
They're damaged.
Why?
Attached to them.
And once that glue is in there, those two pieces of lumber are no good, period, to be used. Okay? That's what we do. And not only that, we damage our children in the process. So, men and women are to come together and become a new organism. Marriage creates an organic union. Yeah, it does. It really does. And to sever that is irreversible. You just can't. There's so much damage done. It's a commitment like no other. But most couples enter marriage with no idea of what marriage is. That's our problem. We enter marriage because we want to have sex with the person forever, because it's the best thing that ever happened. That's a bad thought. Because if you marry somebody because you feel they're a good lover, guess what happens when sex gets a little old? And it does get old. We're human. Guess what happens? You got nothing to fall back on because you can't even talk to each other. Your relationship should be built on friendship first. And then when the sex gets a little old, a little bit here and there, you're still friends.
And you need the companionship.
Exactly. And if you can't have conversations and all it is about sex, what an empty marriage when two people can't hold a conversation without growling at each other. It's empty. We need to talk. Find someone you can talk to, you can laugh with. Find someone that you can have a deep conversation with almost about anything. And it causes no problem at all. You can do that. You women need to talk to people. And if they rattle you and they start bullying you to think the way they want you to think or act the way they want, well, wait a minute, is it all about you or you care about me too? Yeah, because a man's going to have to give more. Because women are, I didn't mean that. Let me what's up? Men feel like, here we go again. Y'all ought to see us at the house watching a Warrior game. I think everybody, they think I'm beating Victoria. She's screaming. She's jumping to the top. She fired every Warrior at least 5 times during one game. I can't stand this. And I'm sitting there just watching. And but she's running upstairs. Back there. They beat me by 3. She threw them. She's down. She's out. She's good. I said, Victoria, it's only 3 points. I don't care. And then by the time it's all over, she's quiet watching. Because they won. And I said, what did I tell you? She said, what are you doing? She's all, I don't know why the cops are not at our house. At one Warrior game. Why 3 or 4 cops are not at our house? Because they say, that man's killing that woman. And I'm just sitting there in the chair watching. But anyway, okay, I'm in it right here. So, we are meant to become one in a marriage. And I remember what Josie said a long time ago. We asked her, said, Josie, if a guy was a cheesehead, in other words, what is it, a Green Bay fan, and he met you and he was wearing a cheese hat, and he said, hi, how are you? Would you date that man? She said, heck yeah.
No,
Because
that's not how it went.
how did it go?
On the commercial, it was a Christian radio station. They were asking women.
Oh yeah,
If you
yeah.
met a guy that was in love with Christ, faithful, committed, good job, a provider for the family, but his downfall was that he was a Green Packers fan, and when he go to the game, he wear a cheesehead, and it was like quite embarrassing. Would you still date him? And one woman said, "Oh no," another said, "I'll put one on." I'll put one on and match it.
So the whole point of this is saying you got to give a little bit, and I respect her for that. Okay, so once again, I'm going to end it right here. Marriages, we need to understand what we're getting into. For some of us, we'd be better off to stay alone, and for others, put on a cheesehead, and go with the program. It's really not that bad, but your conversations late at night, just you and that person, just talking about anything, make you laugh. Those are moments that will last longer than any sexual activity. It's that if that person dies, I die. You understand what I'm saying? I die because that was my friend. And that's what marriage is about. Building a friendship that lasts a lifetime. Not like our culture. Have to find everything to make you happy. You should be happy just even sometime late in the evening. Best time you can spend with a person. Just talking. So, oh, what a boring life. But not when you're 80 years old. No, you're gonna get 80, Joseph. When you're 80 years old and you both have a hard time even moving, what a wonderful experience just to have been with that person all those years. And you know everything about each other. I think that's what marriage is supposed to be. When you look back and you raise your children to be God-fearing children, and you see their grandchildren and their grandchildren, and their children, all with the same message that you instilled into them at an early age. You can't beat that. Any questions?
I just say, I wish I could have heard it broke down like this about 40 years ago. And then the other thing I think the main problem is, in the world even today, is most people don't look at the spiritual aspect of things. When they think of marriage, they think of that certificate, that piece of paper, rings. Totally miss the point about the spiritual part about becoming one. So that's like a major issue. They're not going to look at spirituality.
I can't say anything better than that. We don't see God in our marriage. And when we look at that certificate, let me tell you something. You'll see that certificate for about 2 or 3 days, and you'll never look at it again. But God is always there. That certificate is not. That certificate of marriage is that first time you enter, when you become one with that person. That first sexual act is when you become married. And that should be that should be your coming together that solves everything. It's almost like, now, please understand what I'm saying. Communion, we take communion to remember. And we think nothing about anything else but Jesus. And that coming together sometime when things get to be a little mundane, you think, well, we haven't been together for a long time. And you're focused totally on that. on that. This is my wife. This is my husband. That's what it should be. That's what you should instill into your son, and Josie, your children, and Sam, your children. That person that you chose to live the rest of your life with. Is that the person you want to live? Look at that person. Did that person look like, that you can look at that face when it's wrinkled? But it's true. Can you look at that person when they put on a little weight? Because she's going to have some kids. And if she puts on a little weight, can you live with that person? Yeah. I sit when I'm waiting for her and in the store or whatever, and I sit and I watch people. Odd shapes. But just walking and laughing. Yeah, I think, isn't that great? She is all like this. And he's holding her hand. I'm thinking, and they're older, and that is great. I look at that and I say, yeah, that's his friend. It doesn't matter. It matters to everybody else. Ooh, look at that. But I'm thinking I did that yesterday. I just sat and I just looked. Went to the movie by myself and I just sat on the bench because the movie was like an hour and a half away. And I just looked at people. And I said, wow, she is warped. But they're holding hands and just talking calmly as they, and I was like, ain't that the way it's supposed to be? But we want perfection. When we ain't even perfection, we ourselves. Like when I start off with a young man like Sam and I, well, I'm not young with Sam. When you first get married, doors always open. You're walking around, you're shaving, you ain't got a thing on. Door wide open. But Sam, I guarantee you, as the years go on, that door closes a little bit more, and pretty soon, Shanice should be knocking on her. Sam, the door locked. Just hold on, I'll be out in a minute. But you didn't do that before. I didn't look like this before. So the whole thing is that, it's okay. It's okay. And if you like exercise, that's okay. But nothing should be to the extreme. And nothing should supersede your marriage. Because everything else is just pain. Our bodies are made. Am I saying you can't get healthy? Yeah, you can be healthy. That's fine. But everything under moderation. Eating under moderation. Exercise under moderation. Whatever you do, everything we should do should be under moderation, with the exception of giving God all the glory in our lives, because that's who we're going to spend the rest of our lives with. Amen? Any other questions?
It might be the media's fault too. The media causes all these fantasies.
Fake news!
MTV and everything, they create all these fantasies, VH1, and, you see all these
22-year-old girls.
Yeah, fit and everything, and I want that, and they create this false sense of, of being, and you forget, to me, people forget the coming up with your mate, the trouble that you face together, and that you actually put on weight just as much as as your other has, and but another thing that's hard too is, I know for me when I'm working out of state or something, and when I'm young, that's the last thing I'm saying, is you don't notice, and nothing has changed. Just like how Solomon said, nothing's new under the sun. But when I'm working out of state and I see people drive down the street, couples, they're talking in the car, either they're walking, out of the restaurants and stuff, and you notice all these couples, and you look over and you're in your truck with all your tools and all this stuff in the bag, and it's just you. And that's a little hard because I'm always with Tanisha, I'm always with my wife, but seeing other people, it's hard. When I was young though, it's just me. It's all about me. But yeah.
That's the difference. Marriage is not about you. Marriage is about the other person. And if you can't think that way, marriage is not for you. Because people require attention, right? And the girl said, but I'm the one. Yeah, you're right. You're gonna get the majority of the attention. And it's okay, men like to do that. But you can't have it all. You can't. Because then that person will lose their identity. You don't want that. You want that person to yearn to do for you. And you guys know how to make a person yearn. Just soft words. Just calling them baby. Pookie doo. I'm done. April, close it out first. I'm getting silly now. All right.
Dear Heavenly Loving Father, Lord, I thank you for bringing us through the night, Lord, waking us up this morning in our right minds, able bodies, Heavenly Father, allowing us to be here this morning, Heavenly Father, to take in your word. Lord, thank you for allowing Pastor to shed some light on the scriptures regarding marriage and divorce, Heavenly Father. For those of us that aren't married, Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for allowing us to learn what you expect, Heavenly Father, and what we should expect if it is your will that we do marry. But I pray for each and every one that is here, those that are not, Heavenly Father. I thank you for your mercifulness, Lord, and I ask you to please forgive me and all those as well, Heavenly Father, that ask you to forgive us of our sins, Heavenly Father, and help us to be reminded and mindful that it's not about us. You didn't intricately design us and create us to be selfish, Heavenly Father, but to be of service to you, Lord. Help us to humble ourselves, Heavenly Father, and remember that daily. This and all things I ask in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah, if you want to come.
Sam, this one scripture I want in the King James.
Okay.
That's 2 Corinthians 3:5. Thank you. Hey, Madonna. Why not give me a big old hug? Why not? How's Mother Emma doing? Oh, you're doing okay? Yeah, did you want to hug Mother Emma today? You look like a mole. You gotta come up with something different, Mother Emma. Maybe I've tried. Hey, Firefoot. How you doing?
Yeah.
Where you been hiding out?
I've been going out of town.
You going out of town? Ain't nothing out of town. Tulare is the place.
Oh.
Ain't nothing happening more than Tulare. See, everybody want to get to Tulare. You didn't know that?
How you doing, Kevin? Yes, mosquitoes.
Hey, George. Oh, gee. Y'all tired me out. All them questions. Right?
Yeah.
You just playing with it? You have a lot of it. Is that your feathers or lipstick too? Where you buying from? Is it a certain brand
I have like 12 versions
of the what?
lipstick.
Oh, that's right, that's her business, right? That's her
Oh yeah,
business.
I have like 12 of them.
That's lunch.
I buy a lot of like.
Are they expensive?
Well, even
Oh, you stole How much was it?
the more possible for you. But the kids.
Was only?
Yeah, four.
No,
So they're 15 each?
No.